The 17 News at Sunrise podcast is brought to you by Clinica Sierra Vista.
Welcome back to the 17 News at Sunrise podcast, where we share your news on your schedule.
Working in the spirit of the Golden Empire, this is 17 News at Sunrise.
And good morning. It is 5 a.m. on this Tuesday morning. I'm Alex Fisher alongside Chris Burton. And while we did get a few sprinkles yesterday, it was a mighty wind that followed. Perhaps it even gave some of you a difficult time falling asleep. The winds picked up in the valley last evening with strong winds reported in the mountain and desert communities. You just heard Kevin talking about this. Here in Bakersfield, winds reached up to 35 miles per hour.
And making news around the state, lawmakers are on spring break this week, and the governor gets back from his vacation today, so the possibility of any rebate hitting your wallet is still at the very least weeks away. We're learning new details now about which California residents will qualify for the state's proposed $400 gas rebate. The bill, as it's written right now, says drivers who did not register their vehicles by April 6th of this year would not get the cash. If you owe fees or penalties to the DMV, you also might be out of luck. A 2/3 vote by the state legislature is required for eligible Californians to receive the money in the form of a debit card. Critics have pointed out under the program as proposed by the governor, an individual who owns a luxury vehicle and an electric car would also be eligible for that money. Another point of criticism, the bill would allow the rebate to be processed by the vendor of the governor's choice with a no-bid contract. Republicans say this is concerning.
And we've seen how that's worked. I mean, that's, led to government waste, these contracts that essentially have no oversight. That's a big red flag for me.
Newsom's proposal is one of several circulating through the state capitol to try and offset those rising gas prices. Others include a suspension of the gas tax and direct checks to California taxpayers.
Could we soon be saying farewell to the 5-day work week? There is a new bill making its way through the state legislature that would do exactly that. If passed, the work week would go from 40 hours to 32. Anything over 32 would be considered overtime pay. But there are some exceptions. The law would only apply to companies with more than 500 employees.
Well, Pacific Gas and Electric is agreeing to pay more than $55 million to avoid criminal prosecution for two major wildfires in Northern California. Now, the utility company reached two settlements for last year's destructive Dixie Fire and the 2019 Kincaid Fire in Sonoma County. They were both blamed on PG&E's power lines. PG&E did not admit wrongdoing, but has agreed to submit to 5 years of oversight by an independent monitor. The money will go to a variety of nonprofits, as well as cover civil penalties and reimburse the district attorney's office. One group that will not see a dime, though, the actual fire victims.
Absolutely zero. Yeah, it has no effect on the victims. They hope to outweigh you, and pretty quick you just give up.
That was Cheryl LaFranchi. She, like hundreds of others who lost their homes, will only see money if they win their civil lawsuits against PG&E, and that could be another couple of years.
A massive fire at a UPS facility in Lancaster yesterday caused several explosions inside delivery trucks, which means your package may not be getting to your front door. The flames destroyed nearly 20 delivery trucks and part of the metal structure. 70 firefighters from LA County fought to knock down the blaze. It is not known how the fire started. UPS told our NBC affiliate in Los Angeles that it will notify customers who have been impacted by the fire, noting that they can track their deliveries online. No injuries have been reported.
Your time now, 5:06. 1 week after a shooting left 6 people dead and injured 12 others in downtown Sacramento, people marched yesterday in the memory of those whose lives have been shattered by gun violence.
Stop the harm! We are Sacramento strong!
Community activists, city leaders, and those personally impacted by that rampage remembered those victims with a march in downtown Sacramento just blocks from the crime scene. The group paused in front of a memorial that had been set up with flowers and candles in memory of the people killed April 3rd. Sacramento police said the shooting was gang-related and 5 shooters fired at least 100 gunshots. So far, only 3 men have been arrested in the investigation, and none has been charged with homicide. Only 2 of those men, brothers who were among the wounded, have been connected to the shooting, though they only face firearms charges at this point.
A live look now at the U.S. Capitol building this morning, and the Biden administration is tightening restrictions on ghost guns, privately made firearms that are hard to trace. The rule changes the legal definition of firearm to include ghost guns, kits, and gun parts. That means those who sell and manufacture them will be required to do more background checks and must add serial numbers. Ghost guns are assembled with parts or kits, many without serial numbers, and often there is no background check.
If you commit a crime with a ghost gun, expect federal prosecution. Not just state, expect federal prosecution.
Gun rights groups, the Gun Owners of America, say they are already working on a lawsuit against the administration and are lobbying members of Congress.
In your 17 homicide tracker this morning, authorities have identified a teen who was shot to death in East Bakersfield. Bakersfield police found Jose Maldonado suffering from major injuries on Flower Street near Brown Street on April 1st. He died at the scene. The coroner's office says Maldonado was just 15 years old. According to 17 News data, at least 7 people younger than 30 have been victims of homicide this year. 3, including Maldonado, were just teenagers.
Meantime, the coroner's office has identified a man shot and killed in California City last week. The deadly shooting happened on Bancroft Court near Heather Avenue just after 7 p.m. Wednesday. The coroner's office confirms 41-year-old Adolfo Jimenez Vega was the victim in that shooting. No other information about the killing has been made available. If you know anything, you're asked to call California City Police at 760-373-8606.
A woman has been arrested yesterday after the bomb squad was called to the Kern County Human Services building on Columbus Street in northeast Bakersfield. Bakersfield police say officers were called in just before 4:30 p.m. for a bomb threat. Officers arrived at the scene and learned a woman was upset with staff over an unknown issue and was allegedly overheard making statements about bombing the building. BPD says the woman left a couple bags in front of the building that were later found not to contain any explosives, and she was arrested for delaying or obstructing an officer.
The Kern County Sheriff's Office is asking for your help finding a missing woman considered at risk. This is a picture of 47-year-old Raina Collier. Sheriff's deputies say she spoke to family members October 1st, but has not been seen or heard from since. Collier is described as 5'6", weighing about 200 pounds, with a nose piercing and a teardrop tattoo under her left eye. If you have any information on the whereabouts of Raina Collier, you're asked to call the Sheriff's Office at 861-3110.
From our 17 follow-up file this morning, a 9-year-old boy whose body was recovered last week from the Kern River has now been identified. Jamie Emil Reddick was pulled from the river around noon last Wednesday near Keysville, 5 days after he went missing. Sheriff's officials say the boy and a group of other children were in the water in the Keysville area when he slipped, fell in, and was swept away by the current. Reddick was from Los Angeles.
We've seen how unforgiving and dangerous the Kern River can be, and with spring break upon us, some fear another tragedy could happen. Both locals and officials have a simple message: stay out and stay alive. The Kern River is dangerous, especially if people don't take it seriously. More than 315 people have drowned in the river since 1968.
Well, we're locals. We don't swim here. People that come up here, they just say, hey, the water looks great. I'm hot. Say, go swimming.
Many of those people are from out of town, unaware of the deadly history of the Kern River, according to officials. Some take safety precautions, but still choose to swim. Officials ask everyone to avoid the river or instead go with a professional company. I got to say, a lot of professional companies are fantastic. I mean, they are incredible. They know exactly where to go, where not to go, and they know how to deal with these rapids. They train for this. So again, we've got a lot of great companies, especially in the Kern River Valley, that can take you around the river, have a fun time, but also have a safe time. Do not do this by yourself. And if you have friends and family in the Los Angeles area, tell them to spread the word.
Right, just so important to know where to go and where not to go, and you can only really do that if you've been training for a long time. Well, your time now is 5:36. In your 17 Court Watch, a man arrested after a 9-hour standoff in which police say he shot an officer in the head with a pellet gun, pleaded not guilty today to 9 felonies. Police were called to Toll House Drive near South Bliss Street at about 1 a.m. Thursday, where 34-year-old Alexander Fuentes was allegedly starting fires. Police said Fuentes shot an officer in the head with a pellet gun and barricaded himself in a home with other weapons, including a sword and a knife. Fuentes was eventually taken into custody around 10 a.m. after police used foam baton rounds. Fuentes' bail was set at $100,000 following his arraignment on assault, arson, and threat charges. His next hearing scheduled for May 9th.
Now to the coronavirus. In Philadelphia is the first major U.S. city to reimpose an indoor mask mandate as COVID cases there rise. Starting next week, residents will have to wear masks at all restaurants, shops, offices, and other indoor public spaces. Businesses can require proof of vaccination instead of requiring masks. The 7-day average of new cases in the area was up 60%. Meantime, the U.S. has ordered all non-emergency consular staff to leave Shanghai, China, amid an increase in COVID-19 cases there. Shanghai is under a tight lockdown to try and contain the surge. Many residents in the city of 26 million have been confined to their homes for up to 3 weeks. The State Department's order covers non-emergency U.S. government employees and their family members from U.S. Consulate General Shanghai.
Well, cybersecurity has taken center stage amid international conflicts, but much more dangerous to the average person are targeted scams. I sat down with cybersecurity expert Robert Miles to find out how to protect yourself. Scams online used to be simple.
Back in the day, it used to be the Prince of Nigeria. We all know that there is no Prince of Nigeria now, so nobody's falling for it.
Now, your personal information is stored in hundreds of places online. Scammers can use that data to make cons hard to resist.
To gain information about you so they can make attacks that are very targeted to you.
These types of personalized attacks, phishing attacks, are on the rise. In fact, you've probably seen more than one. Cybersecurity firm Teshin estimates employees receive more than a dozen phony emails a year. These emails, messages, or phone calls will attempt to scare you into making a cyber mistake.
There's going to be this real sense of urgency, whether it's the IRS or somebody you know in jail, or I've hacked your computer, I've stolen information from you.
Scammers will impersonate your bank, your credit card company, even your friends and family. They'll try to get you to send them non-traceable money, often gift cards, or click on a malicious link. When one pops up, Miles says take a deep breath and trust your gut.
A lot of times when we get involved with customers, they've already made the second or third step into getting into things, and then they realize, wait a minute, this doesn't sound right. If they just stopped and took a deep breath, they never would have went down that line altogether.
For most people, there's no way to get personal information back from the internet. Now, it's all about being careful and being smart.
Yeah, I know a lot of scams are out there. I'm seeing it more and more. One thing, though, that you kind of touched on in your package there was how clever some of these scams are. So something to definitely be paying attention to.
Well, it's so targeted, especially the ones that come to your phone. Those are the toughest, I think, because scammers will impersonate actual people that you know based on your personal information online and text you, purporting to be that person. So you really got to watch out. Again, like Robert said, just trust your gut. If it feels fishy, it probably is.
Working in the spirit of the Golden Empire, this is 17 News at Sunrise.
The 17 News at Sunrise podcast is a production of KGET and Nexstar Media Group. For more on all of the headlines in today's show, head to kget.com.